Albert Breer is joining us, lead content guy, Monday morning quarterback. So it's brought to you by Mercedes, the best or nothing. All right, let's start with this whole Cam Belichick thing. I think it's obviously that they don't connect. I am a little surprised, they weren't interested in Dalton and Teddy Bridgewater. I'm a little surprised, and I have said it is not tanking. It is understanding you're not a Super Bowl roster and repositioning yourself for next year's draft when it's full of A-plus quarterback prospects. So what do you make of the reports now last week? New England's just not, they're going to go with Stidham, who may or may not be ready.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised, Colin, if they draft one too. Just based on the premise that you throw darts at the dartboard, and I think you can kind of line it up with what Seattle did a decade ago when they went through Matt Flynn and Charlie Whitehurst and Tavares Jackson before they hit on Russell Wilson. That was the philosophy there, just keep drafting them. And so, I wouldn't be surprised if New England winds up taking, say, a Jake Fromm in the third round if you were to fall to them. And I think really the overall idea, the global idea here, they're in a tough spot financially right now. Their cap is a little bit of a mess. And they really did go all in the last few years to keep a champion together. And so, I think they want to come out of 2020 with clean financials. They're carrying a $13.5 million dead cap hit for Brady this year.
Yes.
I think the idea is to create that sort of advantage for yourself going into 2021 where maybe you've got the quarterback on the roster, if it's Stidham, a draft pick, or, you've got the freedom to go and get one in 2021 with much cleaner financials and a younger team.
Speaking of quarterbacks, I was on the phone 20 minutes yesterday with an NFL general manager. I was texting a scouting director and a scout. I'm going to tell you, the fear on Tua is palpable. I love him.
Yep.
All three are petrified of rolling the dice. You take him, bang, takes a shot. I don't think he's going to drop to the 20th pick, but I'm really sensing, and these could be people just BSing me because we're pre-draft. What is your sense on what you're hearing on Tua, who I love, but I can sense the fear now with his injury?
Yeah, there are three things. I think, number one, the hip. Everything's as good as it could be right now, but the nature of that injury, you're not really going to know until 9 to 12 months out whether he develops the Bo Jackson condition or not, which – it's a risk. Now there's not a high chance of it happening, but it's a risk. And so that's sort of sitting out there. And then the second thing is the ankle surgeries. And not a lot of people are talking about this, Colin. That tightrope surgery that he had done on both ankles, that's a new surgery. And so there isn't a long track record, as far as how those hold up. So that becomes a question. And then the third thing, of course, is just the history. If you look over the last 10 years, and I know I've been over this with you, but Sam Bradford, Jake Locker in 11, Robert Griffin in 12, Carson Wentz, Marcus Mariota, Deshaun Watson, Josh Rosen. Guys who get hurt in college get hurt again in the pros. And so I think because of all of these things, teams look at it and say, do I really want to sink the sort of resources into getting to when I know that there's that amount of risk on the other end of it? So there's a very, very real question there. And to me, to tell whether it's the Miami Dolphins who – look, their owner, their team president, and their general manager were all at the Alabama bowl game, and Tua wasn't even playing in it. That's the level of research they've done into him. And I don't necessarily think that all that research means they're taking him. In fact, it could wind up meaning they know a lot about where he is medically, the physical risk, and it wouldn't totally shock me if they wind up deciding they like Justin Herbert as a prospect more than they like Tua Tagovailoa, which is crazy to think, but that could be where they are.
By the way, there's two very good defensive players on the market. We talk quarterbacks. Everson Griffin and Jadeveon Clowney are very good players. Clowney is great against the run. Everson Griffin's a good pass rusher. Lots of teams would love them, but not at their number. Is there a leader in the clubhouse for either of those two guys right now?
I still think Clowney, there's a good chance he goes back to Seattle on maybe a one-year deal to try to come back and hit it big in 2021. Not being able to take a physical is a big deal for him. He had microfracture surgery early in his career. He's had swelling in his knees. And so there's a question there, how much of a commitment do you want to make to him? And it's hard for teams to make a long-term commitment to somebody like that when they can't have their own team doctor get their hands on him. And so it might make most sense for Clowney to go back and go back to the Seahawks on a one-year deal try and hit it big and then come back in 2021. Everson Griffen's issue is a little bit different in that, he's older and there's the off-field thing lingering out there, the mental health issue that he had from a couple of years ago. And so he's the type of guy that you'd want to sit down and talk to. And so he could make sense for somebody like Cleveland, where there's someone in the building, that'd be Kevin Stefanski in this case, who has been around him and who knows him. It's just hard to make that leap of faith if you don't know the guy based on some of the prior history there.
Yeah. Good stuff. Albert Breer is joining us. The NFL draft, it was interesting. Only about a minute left. I talked to Tom Telesco about a week ago, and I said, the draft thing, you do it from your house, right? And he said, well, in California, you're not allowed to gather. So he said, he goes, in our state, I'm going to have like 9 screens in front of me. He goes, man, I hope somebody doesn't trip at my house and unplug the internet or I can't draft, because every state is different about how many people can gather. But I do think we should go on with it. I think we've got enough stuff. Senior Bowl, Combine, 3 years of tape, interviews. Your gut feel, I think it goes on as planned. You?
I think they're going to go forward with it. I do. And I think part of this is going to be, eliminating competitive balance issues. And so, that means, and this is a memo that went out to everybody in the league last week, it's either going to have to be everybody's at home or everybody can use their team facilities.
Right.
And I'm just here to tell you, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a state official. There is no way on God's green earth that every single NFL team is going to be able to congregate in their team facilities
right.
in 2.5 weeks. So this is going to be at home. And like you said, there are issues that they're going to have to work through here. I mean, the IT people have suddenly become some of the most important people in those buildings because they're going to have to build infrastructure in these people's houses so they can support the sort of stuff that they need. I got an interesting story for you. I'll just run through this really quick. I wrote that the IT thing's a problem, right? And I had a number of area scouts reach out to me, guys who are on the road, and they said, "Oh, all the office guys now see what we're up against." One of these guys actually said to me, "The internet's not strong enough in his house on a day-to-day basis to run the stuff he needs to run to do his scouting, so he goes to a local Starbucks to do his work because they've got a stronger internet connection there." So think about that and multiply it by the amount of people that are going to need a strong internet connection and need the sort of technological resources to run an entire draft within their houses. You can see there's a lot of work ahead for teams to make it so everything is going to run smoothly in 2.5 weeks.
Good stuff, Albert. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.